Most agents like to talk. Maybe somebody didn't buy in 2021 because you assume they didn't have enough money. But maybe they didn't buy in 2021 because they put 2 offers in on a property and they got smoked and blown out of the water because their agent wasn't able to negotiate really well with either the buyer or the agent so that they had the right information to make the best decision possible. They didn't buy. And then 2022, they thought, oh, the market's coming down, everything's going to crash. So they held off. And then 2023, now they're like, well, we really want to make a move soon because we're not in a good neighborhood or we're not in a house that we own, right? Like there's a lot of different reasons that could cause somebody to move, but we're not asking the best questions. So they're not making the best decisions that are going to impact them in their life, their family's life, their grandparents' life, right? There's so many reasons why people do things. What's up? Welcome back. Vikram Deol. I am really excited to share something with you guys that I haven't shared a lot publicly. It's stuff that I normally reserve behind the scenes for my private clients. But in this new economy where buyer agents are being attacked now, the listing may or may not provide compensation. As a buyer's agent, if that's a big part of your business, and look, guys, when I got into the business, right, when I was a brand new agent, I didn't have listings coming out of my ears. I held open houses. I booked buyer appointments. I sat down with the buyer. I didn't know what to say. I winged it. Luckily, I had sold a lot of Cutco knives, so I'd sat down in a presentation. I knew how to find their need. Why were they there? Right? Most agents are taught to ask forward questions. I was looking through my old stuff today, and my very first original buyer's consultation script said, build rapport by asking forward questions. We have now upgraded our ability to communicate. We have trained. That was version 1 from 2013. Version 2, like the 2014 one, we took out the forward questions, but I was still training my agents myself the exact same way that you're probably still being trained, and it's not going to work, right? If it worked in the past, right? If what was being trained worked in the past, wouldn't you have already got buyer agency signed? Wouldn't you have already talked about compensation? Wouldn't you have already had those difficult conversations so that buyers would use you as their agent? Well, now what's coming around is that you are going to be forced, right? It's going to be mandated by many different states or MLSs that in order for you to work with the buyer, you need to have a buyer agency agreement signed. But before we can get to a buyer agency agreement, we have to show the prospect that we provide value as a buyer's agent. And unfortunately, right now, what most agents are doing, even good agents when it comes to buyer agency, is they're talking about what the person's looking for in a house, right? If this is you, like, this is cool, no worries. It's not what you were taught, right? That's what we were taught, right? So you weren't taught how to get the deep why of the person. And in a 7, 8, 6.5, 9% interest rate economy, I don't know where interest rates are going to go. If you do, let me know in the comments below, and I will happily pay you a big fat chunk of change. But nobody knows if we're going to 9s. Nobody knows if we're going to 4s. It's all in the air. So if we don't know why the prospect reached out, right? If we don't understand what's causing them to want to move, if we can't create what is called a consequence of them not moving, if we can't create what we call a vivid vision with them, Tony Robbins calls it the Dickinson's process, right? Where we take somebody through, and we're obviously not going to do that with these people, but we're going to take them through creating their beautiful new life and their beautiful new home with the bigger backyard and the school district that they want and a safer neighborhood with mom and dad being able to live and help out with the kids, right? Whatever it is, the pool, whatever it is, we're going to help them create that vivid vision. And then we're going to say, but what if nothing changes and everything stays the same, and you don't get your daughter into the school, and she doesn't get into the advanced technology program, and she doesn't get into the sports program, and your son continues to suffer because or struggle with, being ADD over here, I get it, but not having the proper support. What happens then? And all of a sudden, that additional payment, right? Because we're not always talking about, one of the mistakes that agents make is that we think they want a 3.5% interest rate. oftentimes they're debating between like, oh man, if they just went back to 6, we would be in the market right away. Maybe they're at 7 right now. And so in our minds, we assume they want a 3.5. They want a payment of $1,800 because that's what the news says. That's what the media says. But in reality, they wanted a payment that was $2,600, not $2,800. And the $200 delta or the $400 delta or the $800 delta is what's holding them back from making a decision that will change the quality and the impact of their life forever. Right now, who's more compelling? Me talking about a $400 difference in payment? Are you trying to convince them based off of you making an assumption, right? So if we don't get super curious right out the gate, we're going to have a really hard time actually understanding why they reached out and what happens if they don't do anything. So we're going to ask all the questions. What are you looking for? Why'd you buy your original house? Why'd you rent this one? What caused you to not buy? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're going to handle all of that before we get into asking for agency. Maybe somebody didn't buy in 2021 because you assume they didn't buy in 2021 because they didn't have enough money. But maybe they didn't buy in 2021 because they put 2 offers in on a property and they got smoked and blown out of the water because their agent wasn't able to negotiate really well with either the buyer or the agent so that they had the right information to make the best decision possible. And because of that, they didn't buy. And then 2022, they thought, oh, the market's coming down, everything's going to crash. So they held off. And then 2023, now they're like, well, we really want to make a move soon because we're not in a good neighborhood or we're not in a house that we own. And even if we don't make money on the property over the next couple of years, we would rather be in a home that we own because the landlord is threatening to sell the house. And if she sells the house, then we're not going to be able to stay in the same school district around our friends and our neighbors and all the community that our kids have built. And we don't want to uproot their life, or we don't want in the middle of high school for their life to be uprooted. And now they have to go try to find a new school or a new house and maybe they can't afford it, right? Like there's a lot of different reasons that could cause somebody to move, but we're not asking the best questions. So they're not making the best decisions that are going to impact them in their life, their family's life, their grandparents' life, right? There's so many reasons why people do things, right? There's so many reasons why people do things. If my grandma said, hey, I want to move to town where my parents live, but I don't want to live with any of my daughters. I want to live on my own. I want to have like a backyard. I want to be able to do my own things. But, okay, fine. I'm ready to get off the farm and I'm ready to be closer to a couple of my kids that can help me because now I'm getting old and I can't take care of myself. Knock on wood, that'll never happen. She's a strong woman. But let's say that happens. But she says, I'm only going to come if you guys buy me my own house that I can do whatever I want in, right? Sure, you're going to get me help. I bet you all my mom's sisters would get together to find a way to get her what she wants, right? Even in a 7-8% economy, they would find a way to pool resources to get grandma what she wanted. And there's a lot of people out there in this world just like that. So it's going to get harder, but let's jump into it. All right, like I said, you guys, I've only shared this typically with my private clients. What we're going to do is what we call it the transition formula. This is straight out of NEPQ from Jeremy Miner. I am a licensed trainer for real estate agents. So if that's something you'd like to learn more about, there is a set link in the thingamabopper below. That is a technical term, the thingamabopper below. You can click to book a strategy call with me. And we can see if like what we're doing over here would possibly help you guys out. And if it does, then we could talk about the next steps. I can tell you right now, this is last 2 weeks of November. We will probably have a major price increase coming in about 30 days. So I'm not sure when this is going to launch. Hopefully my team can get it out before the end of the week, but we will see a massive price increase in the next couple of weeks. And that's just because there's going to be a lot more content. But if you join now, you'll get access to a lot of that other additional content that is in the works right now. So we start out with, based off of what you told me, what we are doing would actually work for you. Because you know how you said you actually didn't want to have that neighborhood, right, where the neighbors are driving super fast and one of them's always bumping loud music and it's disturbing your wife, and during work hours, it's keeping your kids up at night, right? So, and you were kind of nervous about buying a home because this was your first property. You didn't want to have like a bad inspection. And because of that, it's causing you to feel, I think you said the reason why you guys haven't purchased a property was because you're a little stressed, a little scared about making a bad choice. A little scared, not really scared, a little scared. And they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we're super scared. Now, if your tone, if you're not practicing this, then it's not gonna land the way that you want it to. But if your tone is good, right? If your cadence is good, if your delivery is good, then the prospect's gonna be like, oh, absolutely, right? So then we're gonna go into what we call the presentation stage. Well, with your permission, I could go over a few things that we might be able to do for you to help you get the home that you want to solve those problems. Would that be okay? Okay, super generic, right? Super generic. You can plug in your own stuff here. Okay, so again, this is just a little generic format so that you guys can see how it looks, but let's go to a financials, right? So one of the biggest problems that people have when they're buying a home is they don't know all the different finance options to get like the best long-term deal, right? Like oftentimes buyers just say they want the lowest price possible. But what happens is that in the pursuit of the lowest price, they often miss the best deal. What do you mean? Problem. Okay, write this down. PSW. Problem, solution, what's in it for prospect. Okay, so the way we solve that for clients like you is we go out and we talk to different financiers, from hard money loans to learn about rate buy downs and using even different payment options, right? And what that means for you is when we're negotiating price and terms, we're going to look at the ways to get you not just the best price today on the property, but also the best terms to save you the most amount of money, not just up front like most agents are trying to do, but we're going to try to save you the most amount of money over the course of the time you're going to be in the home, right? And they're going to be like, what does that even mean? Because how many times, be real with me, agents. I love you guys. I've worked with thousands of you guys. I've trained a lot of agents over the last 10 years of my life from my own team, right? Our team did hundreds of millions of dollars in sales in a very short period of time. I worked with a lot of agents, right? Even when we were the listing side, I would ask the buyer's agent, I said, hey, instead of doing X, maybe if you guys did Y, your buyer would have more money to spend right now because of X, Y, and Z. They're like, oh my God, I never knew that. We didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm just throwing it out there, like free advice is free advice. Just throwing it out there. But if you find that it might be beneficial, I can have you talk to one of my people. They might be able to walk you through these things better. And we would help the buyer as the listing agent, we would help the buyer's agent restructure their loans and their deals so that the buyer got a better long-term purchase. Because I knew that if they could spend more money, right? If they could spend more money, then they could give us a better price, or they could not have to negotiate certain things. And so by helping not only the buyer, but being a listing agent knowing these things, could you see how that would help you as an agent be a better agent as well, right? So if you know how to coach your buyers through it, you'll know how to coach the other agents through it, which helps you do a better job. Then we're going to check for agreement, right? 1 or 2 checking for agreement questions. So one of them could be like, does that make sense? Okay, now, how do you see having an agent who is versed in the different financing options? How do you see an agent that's versed in all the different financing options? How do you see that helping you the most in your eyes? Or how do you see that really benefiting you guys the most right now, right? How do you see having an agent that's able to possibly walk you through the different scenarios when we're getting ready to put an offer together? How do you see that really impacting your financial future inside of the home? Do you see how that could benefit you? Okay, great. If we don't check for agreement, if we just say that and we don't check to make sure that they understand how it's going to actually benefit them, all the long-term benefits of it, if we don't do that, then they might not have understood it. And they're just like, oh, yeah. and they're not going to have understood it. And if they don't understand it, that means it has zero value. Buyer doesn't understand it, it has zero value. So you have to check for agreement, right? You have to make sure that they understand. Now, you're going to want to do 3 pillars, all right? You're going to want to do 3 pillars, right? So I gave you the first pillar. First one's financing, all right? You can copy that one, update it, edit it a little bit for your market. Sorry, you guys, I have a sciatica issue, so I'm rolling on a ball for my back because it hurts to sit right now. And I got to do like a couple more hours of videos today. So I'm just rolling because I don't have a stand-up desk, unfortunately. So number one, right? Number one, we have to go to what's called our transition stage. Okay. The formula for transitioning. All right. I gave it to you up at the top. If we don't transition, right? And the formula to transition is based off of what you told me, because you know how you said, and because of that, it's causing you to feel, right? So what you told me, we're listening, we're paying attention. You said this, right? Insert their pain and where they want to be. And because of that, it's causing you to feel a little bit, right? A little bit, whatever their emotion was, right? This is why we train multiple times a week inside the Real Estate Sales Academy. This is why we talk and role play and practice, because being an agent is hard, right? And you can be like the average agent that's, I think, currently making just under $50,000, $45,000 a year before they pay their companies 20, 30%, 15 to 30% of the commission, right? Like, isn't that crazy? As a brand new agent, you're struggling already and your company takes 25% of your commission. So you make, if it's $50,000 and your company takes 20 to 25% of that, what is the math on that? It was $100,000. So the company's taking $10,000 to $12,000. Like, isn't that crazy? That's bananas to me. And I've talked to these people that come from these big companies, big brokerages, and they're like, yeah, the trainer tells me to work on my brand and my logo and my website. I'm like, what are you going to write on your website? You haven't even sold enough homes to know what you're providing to a buyer or to a seller. They're like, I know, we're stuck. We need to learn how to have conversations. So the first pillar, right? You could talk about financing. What would be the second and the third pillars? Right, you need a minimum of 3 pillars. You don't want to get more than 4 or 5. Right, they're buying a house. If you get it too complicated, it's going to go over their head. That's how you start to show value. Now, maybe you guys show a case study. Hey, we had a buyer, right? Proof over promise. So you can have a piece that says, hey, we had a buyer, right, that was looking at this property right here. So you have a picture of the house. And then in this column, you're like, this was what they were going to do, right? This is what we recommended they do. This is what they actually did. Because they did this, they were able to do X, Y, and Z. Because we were able to negotiate, we got A, B, and C, right? And you can show them the proof over promise, right? So that they can touch it and see it and feel it. And they're like, okay, they're not just talking. Most agents like to talk. So if you have a proof piece for each one of your pillars, you're going to be much more confident when you walk in. Now, let's say you're a newer agent and you don't have the proof pieces. This is where you team up with somebody more experienced, and maybe you do the presentation on your own, but you say, my partner, Vikram, right? And he's the one that helps with all the negotiations. I do kind of like the beginning stuff here. I'm helping you open your door. I'm helping you with finding the property. I'm helping you with the inspections, but everything that we do, we go through Vikram, our senior partner, right? Just like in a financial firm. I have a senior partner and I run everything through Vikram. And if you need to, like before we do anything finalized, we can even sit down with him or have like a Zoom meeting or like a conversation where we all get like on a conference call and we can discuss what's the best option for you based off of what you're trying to do. And then you can use my case study, or you could use a team member's case study, right? To actually show proof over promise. All right. I hope this was helpful. If so, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share this with somebody. Maybe you're on a team. Maybe you're a team leader, right? You have team members on your team. You're going to have to write this out. Like my clients, I write this out with them and for them because that's going to allow them to have it. But for you guys, you got to do some work. This is free, y'all. It's free. They pay me thousands of dollars, right? They pay a lot of money to be a part of our program, but they're having results like Alex and Mario that went from just a couple of sales for the year to now a couple sales every single month. So if you want those same results, if you want that same success, click the link below, book in a time, and let's jam. I'll talk to you later.